Thanks for joining us once again. I'm focused in this show on hopefully in a dangerous situation, saving your life. So today, this is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is a first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. My strategy today on this show is to put you through three elements of the process of racing, because most of you don't realize it, but how to handle it is different. You purchased a very nice car that's very powerful and very fast. In certain situations, while you purchased the vehicle actually owns you. And so my goal of this show today is to introduce you to concepts that will enable you to manage your vehicle well, but also not get you killed. Is particularly important because once you understand how to handle a race car or a racing situation, you'll be able to, handle your vehicle extremely well. And so my structure today is kind of weird. We're actually going to keep watching the same piece of video of a race car driver who's going through his paces. And I want to go through the same video on 3 occasions because we're introduced concepts that I want you to particularly focus on. And then after you know what the concept is and you're watching the driver, you can now bring those concepts into understanding what your vehicle is doing, particularly under heavy pressure. So I'm going to end here on my first segment and introduce a concept, and the concept is called the racing line. So I'm putting a graph between, to get through a turn is to find the racing line and stay on that line as much as you can. And that's what the driver is attempting to do as you watch this video. The other problem, though, with the racing line is how the body of the vehicle and how your tires behave have an opinion about how they like those racing lines, and that's where you hear those tires screeching as it goes through the turn. I didn't choose to just run end to end this vehicle going through the Nürburgring. Obviously, it's a Plaid S. The reason is that the issue is straightaways and turns, and how do you handle them? And you'll notice that when you look at the racetrack, those colors, those white and blue colors, are where your wheels are supposed to hit if you're optimized to the racing line of the track. And so keep an eye on how the driver hunts for those racing lines optimized as he makes his movements, because it gives him ideal speed through the turn, and it allows him to not slow down as much. As you watch this, notice the speed that is coming up on the speedometer, along with whether he's in turn or not, because he can carry high speed in that space comfortably because he's a race car driver and knows how the car is going to react. So let's, note what the racing line is and watch how he moves to keep the vehicle on the optimal racing line in round 1. Lesson 2 of our 3-lesson show is anticipating your feet on the track. So when we go through this video, instead of you trying to identify his racing line, notice how the body of the vehicle is moving based on where and how weight is on the wheels. One of the biggest challenges is that if you hit the brakes in a turn and you haven't started slowing down in the straightaway and then speeding up in the turn, you run into a problem where the front left tire will actually dig in and pull the car, so you could literally be pulled off the track. Whereas if you had slowed down and you were starting to pick up speed on that turn, you'll notice that he can accelerate into the turn rather than having to slow down and potentially put the car in jeopardy. Lesson 3 is, I want to say, my most zaniest one for the show, and I apologize because I did a little bit of racing and I've done a few schools. And so that focuses on sort of, I want to say, play a few games with your car to understand how it behaves under certain circumstances. One example that I thought was really helpful from Bob Bondurant and Skip Barberos, the other school that I went to, is if you're in a turn getting onto a freeway, let's say you have a bend to the right, or theoretically it could be a bend to the left, try getting into that turn, lock your hand on the steering wheel, and then look in the middle of the turn. Why are we doing this? Because it gives you a sensation of the fact that you know where the car is without having to look once you've set in the oval based on what the arc of that turn is. And that can be helpful because, what if it's a snowy situation, car starts to slide? It gives you a tool to understand how and what your vehicle is going to do, so being able to anticipate it will enhance your whole lifestyle. So I only wanted to cover 3 lessons today and determine, hey, do you guys think racing principles are useful to discuss ahead of time? The reason I chose to do this is that there's a guy named Diego himself and his brother. I don't know which of them was driving, but the point of this final lesson is the fact that just because you paid a lot for a car and you love that car don't love you. It owns you. And so there's a process by which you get to know that vehicle and what it can do and how to manage what it can do. Otherwise, it will take your head off. And yes, Teslas are great performers and they look great when they handle power, but the principles of racing, understanding how turns work and how to manage them well, how to handle speed, how to take speed off without jeopardizing your car. For example, instead of braking heavily in that corner that you didn't expect, by powering through that corner, you dig two outside tires in as you're turning, rather than having the weight of the car focused on that front left wheel that pushes you possibly into a tree or the bushes. Thanks for joining us. We look forward to your comments on this. I know it's not our usual. It's an unusual way to do this, but take time to watch and, learn how your motors and your tires are behaving, because I think it could save your life in a challenging situation that was unexpected for some reason. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. Please take time to like and subscribe, and comments always appreciated.